Welcome to the second part of the evolution series. You might remember that in the previous part, we discussed a historical development. Today, in the evolution series, we will talk about two very important elements of the evolutionary claim, natural selection and random mutation. Now, what is random mutation? Here, two words are important, random and mutation. What is a mutation? Well, a mutation is when there is a change in the code of our personality, the code upon which our personality is built, the code that lies behind everything in our body, how the color of my eyes is, how tall I am, etc. There is a code for all of it. And this code is composed of words made up of 4 letters, A, T, C, and G. Obviously, it's not literally written as A, T, C, and G. These are actually chemicals like thymine, guanine, cytosine, and adenine. These chemicals' names have been shortened for ease, using their initials A, T, C, and G. A combination is formed from these, called codons, which combine in various ways to form what is known as a genotype. Along with the genotype, it is also necessary for you to understand the phenotype. As I mentioned earlier, the combination of these codes, such as A, T, C, C, T, A, T, C, and so forth, constitutes the genotype. However, what will be the manifestation of this genotype? What impact will it have? The effect, the outcome of it, is called the phenotype. For example, a genotype is displayed on your screen. The phenotype of this genotype is that the color of the eye will be blue. And if there is any change, like another genotype appearing, it means that now the color of your eye will be brown. That is the phenotype. So, when any change occurs in our DNA, for example, when the cell is copying itself, that change is called a mutation. Now, mutations come in many different types, not just one particular type. At the same time, keep in mind that in evolution, only those mutations that occur in the germline matter, meaning they can occur in 2 places, soma and germline. Somatic mutations are those that do not pass on to the next generation. They affect you, but it's only limited to you, like cancer cells. However, germline mutations, which occur in egg or sperm cells, are passed on to the next generation. So, this is basically what mutation is. Now, what is random? Well, random in an evolutionary claim suggests that since this idea posits that everything is a free process, there is no room for divine intervention. Therefore, the mutation just happens without any planning or design. It just happens. And then, the beneficial ones get passed on to the next generation, while the non-beneficial ones do not. Now, how do we know which ones are beneficial and which are not? If you go into the philosophy of evolution, then the concept of beneficial takes on a totally different meaning than what we generally read in textbooks. Beneficial means something else there, but we'll talk about what is generally written in textbooks. In textbooks, a beneficial mutation is one that achieves at least 2 things. First, it provides some advantage or benefit to the organism in which the mutation occurred, and second, it can be passed on to the next generation. Essentially, its fitness value is higher. You can take a simple example of this. Suppose there are some insects in the grass whose color does not match the grass, meaning they are not green. So, let's say their color is yellow or brownish, and this puts their life in danger because birds flying above can easily spot them since they are distinct and stand out against the grass. But if there is a mutation such that their genotype changes and the color of these insects also becomes green, then this is a beneficial mutation in the sense that their life is now safe because the birds above can no longer easily see them. However, it is also necessary that this mutation is passed on to the next generation so that it becomes fixed in the population. That is the field of population genetics. This is essentially what it means to be a beneficial mutation. The question is, are these mutations truly random? Historically, we've been told that these mutations are random, but now evidence is emerging suggesting that they may actually be purpose-driven. Unfortunately, since the evolutionary paradigm is a very dominant and encompasses everything, such findings typically do not make it into textbook biology. And truth be told, these discoveries are not that old, but still, we haven't seen much impact at the academic level. What is the evidence? Well, take the common herb, Thalecress, which you often see by the roadside. Around 1700 experiments were conducted on this in Germany to see to what extent mutations are random. And the result was that mutations are not random. Rather, the parts of its genome that are essential for its survival experience fewer mutations. And it's not just a coincidence. An entire messaging mechanism has actually been discovered, and this messaging occurs within its DNA, built around a particular type of protein, histone. There, chemical messaging occurs to increase repair work in those areas. So if a mutation does occur, it gets repaired quickly because these parts are crucial for the plant's survival. So, the parts of the genes that are not so crucial for the plant's survival experience more mutations. So, is it just an accident that mutations are less in the areas where they should be less? Meaning, if mutations increase there, the plant won't survive, so mutations are fewer there. That doesn't seem random. It seems like there's a purpose behind it. The research papers published on this have made remarkable statements that this gives us a new way to think about evolution, because the claim is that all of this is random, but you might be wondering, if one or two pieces of research like this come out, what difference does it make? Well, the thing is that it's not just one or two pieces of research. This has been happening since 2012. In fact, one more study came out in 2022, conducted by scientists from the University of Haifa. They compared the people of Ghana with the people of Europe and found surprising differences in the mutations of hemoglobin, particularly in how the mutation that defends against malaria, HBs, is more common among Ghanaians and less common among Europeans. Why? Because the risk of malaria is higher in Ghana and lower in Europe, and therefore the mutation is also driven by a purpose to protect the people there from malaria. It's not random. While the claim of evolution is that across species and across the board, these mutations just happen randomly and nature selects them, now we understand that is not the case. Now, does this mean the entire evolutionary theory is wrong? Yes, one of its claims is proven wrong. But science has a nature that when such a discovery is made, more research is done on it, funds are invested, new laboratories are built, and further studies are conducted to see what else we can learn from it. But our evolutionary scientist has driven this by political foundations, not by the scientific. That's why you will find this perspective online in scientific, technical, and research papers. But this has not yet become a part of evolutionary paradigm. To this day, it is still taught, and I imagine it will continue to be taught for many years, that it is random. So, the question of whether it is random is something we have discussed, and there is a lot of scientific evidence suggesting that mutations are not random. Now, the question is whether mutations happen at such a high rate that they can meet the requirements of evolution. That is, whether mutations occur at a level where nature can select them, and they are passed down to the next generation to the extent that some change has occurred in the species at the micro level, and then it continues to evolve to the extent that the species evolves into a new species over millions, maybe hundreds of thousands of years. We don't know that, but we do know that the rate of mutation is not that high. Now, we have mathematics working with science, and we have physics, which is shattering the very foundation of evolutionary claims. Now, the beneficial mutation has a certain rate at which it occurs. The first thing to understand is that not every mutation is beneficial. In fact, most mutations, regardless of the type, whether it is a substitution, a point mutation, or any other type, they are neutral. Most of them do not make any difference. After that, those that do make a difference can either be harmful or beneficial, meaning they can be deleterious or beneficial. Harmful mutations are more common, while beneficial ones are less common. But as I said before, for a mutation to be beneficial, it must benefit the organism and be passed down to the next generation. So, this is where things get really complicated because, first of all, it takes a lot of time for a mutation to appear that could benefit the organism. And if it does occur, it mostly falls victim to random drift. Random drift is, again, a natural process according to evolution, in which the mutation does not get passed on to the next generation and disappears. In some studies, up to 99% of mutations do not reach the next generation and fall victim to random drift. But even if they do reach the next generation, we still need them at such a high level that they become fixed in the population. Fixation is a technical term in evolution. Fixation means that the mutation has now become normal in the entire population. For example, if there is a tribe where people's eyes are brown, and after 1,000,000 years, you find that all of their eyes have turned blue, it means that the mutation that turned brown eyes blue has become fixed. Now, for fixation to occur, first, the mutation must appear, then it must be beneficial, then it must survive random drift, and then it must be passed down to the next generation in such a way that as the generation grows, the mutation continues to be passed on. That takes a lot of time. How much time? Well, some scientists have calculated it. in 2015, a paper was published, and even before that, calculations had been made by B. What we understand is that for coordinated mutations to occur, it takes millions of years. Now, what are coordinated mutations? A coordinated mutation is when two mutations occur together, and their combination is necessary because the first mutation alone may not make much of a difference. For example, if people in a population have small hands and larger hands would be beneficial to them, it might not happen with just one mutation. Instead, there would be one mutation that slightly enlarges their bones, another mutation that affects their skin, and so on. Their combination is crucial. So, how long does it take for two coordinated mutations to occur? If this process is purely random, well, the answer is that it takes many hundreds of millions of years. This was the calculation of B. After that, Gauger and a number of other scientists improved on this, bringing in models. Now, one thing you could say is that these people are from the ID, intelligent design, community, so it shouldn't matter because math is math. If 2 plus 2 equals 4, then to determine this result, you won't consider the religion of the person calculating it. But despite this, some people might say, oh, they are from the ID community. However, Durrett and Schmidt, they were not from the ID community. In fact, they were hardcore evolutionists. They said, no, B was wrong. Let's do the calculation. And according to their calculation, two coordinated mutations take 216 million years. Mind you, just to put things in perspective, there is a difference of about 30 million base pairs between humans and chimps. If two coordinated mutations take 216 million years, you do the math. Can the story we are told about a divergence of lines from a common ancestor in 6 million years, with some going towards gorillas and others towards humans, happen in 6 million years? The answer is no, because if 8 coordinated mutations occur, it exceeds the age of the universe. If it is truly random, all our questions whether mutations are random and whether they meet evolutionary requirements. The simple answer is no, they do not. Neither are they random. Now, if they are not random, the question arises, what impact does this have on evolution? Evolution does not allow you to say, well, if your God did it, then fine, what is our problem? We just say it is a process. No, they say there is no God. Everything is natural and materialistic. But if we don't see randomness and instead see a purpose, a design, as I have shared with you in 2 examples, then this claim falls flat. On top of that, when we put population genetics into it, the figures that come up are unbelievable. Such mutations do not meet the evolutionary requirement that a beneficial mutation should occur, nature should select it, and then it should continue.